On the 7th of April 2025, it was reported that over 6 trillion US dollars vanished or was wiped out from the US stock market. The question is, should you still invest in the stock market globally? And more specifically, we want to look at the stock market versus real estate. And you and I know that this is a very important conversation to have, especially because we look at building wealth from a global perspective, and most importantly, look at the local realities while making sure that we maximize and use the most of every investment vehicle that we find, whether it is real estate or it is stock. But in this video, we want to specifically look at the pros and the cons, so the advantages and disadvantages of the stock market versus real estate. My name is Raymond Ijoma, and I am the lawyer that loves real estate. So if you like the real estate entrepreneur that uses law and real estate as a tool in building wealth for myself and my client. And don't make sure you subscribe to this channel, like this video, drop a comment, and be a part of this family, because right here we are building wealth, leveraging on real estate. The goal here is to make sure that we are all wealthy at the end of the day. And this is an important conversation that you and I should look into in a bit to understand what we get into before we get into it, and of course, how to maximize the use of every investment vehicle that we choose at the end of the day. Do subscribe to this channel, like this video, and drop a comment for us, and of course, share this particular video with a friend. And of course, this video is brought to you by Fortreal Rei Ltd real estate company right here in the very city of Abuja. So let's get right into the conversation. First, how does the stock market work, right? And then of course, real estate. Simply put, right, real estate is investing, if you permit me, in land. You are literally investing in it, right? And then the stock market, or stock as it were, is investing in company shares, right? So for example, Apple, for example, Dangote, for example, MTN. So literally you can buy shares from any of this company or any company that has government approval to be able to sell shares. And the market that all of this happen is generally referred to as the stock market. All right. And then how do you make money from stocks? You make money from stocks by buying into the shares of the company. Say for example, you buy a unit of share for say $100, for example. All right. And then the company does business, makes money, right? And then having made good money, they declare what they refer to as dividend. And upon doing that, and then by declaring dividend, they put out or declare profit of say 100%, or depending on how they declare their profit. And then they declare dividends stating that everything got extra 100%. Right, so that basically gives you $200. So you invested or bought a unit of share at 100 naira, $100, and then you are now having 200, or that same unit of share now valued at $200. All right, and at that point you can resell or reinvest, as the case may be. That is, in summary, how you make money from shares at its simplest form, right? The deeper conversations, but at its simplest form, this is how you make money from shares or from the stock market, as the case may be. Now, for real estate, you make money from real estate by simply buying a property. Of course, there are so many other mediums or ways that you can make money from real estate, but the most popular and its simplest is buying a land, you keep it and you resell it. All right, you buy a house, you develop it, or you fine-tune it and then you sell it, or basically anything around buying, flipping, keeping, and all of that. And what usually drives demand or drives success in real estate is demand. There is scarcity. All right, there's development, there's population. All of these are constant because you can't live life without real estate. You can't live life, no matter who you are, whether you are poor or you are rich, you have direct involvement with real estate. I've always said that real estate is either using you or you are using real estate. All of us are in the equation of real estate, and we cannot avoid it. Even the biggest companies of the world are all passively real estate companies, while the poorest in the world somehow still use real estate, whether they are sleeping under the bridge or they are living anywhere in the bush. All of us are somehow into real estate, and that is what drives real estate. Demand, scarcity, they're not creating any more of it. Development in locations leads to appreciation, and then of course population will continually lead to more demand, even though there is continuous deficit, particularly in Africa, or more specifically Nigeria. So today we have over 28 million housing deficit in Nigeria, and that is a pool of opportunities and money for people who invest in real estate. Now back to the stock market. How do you make money? I've already explained that. The question is, what now drives the growth? What drives the profit? What drives the profit is the success of the business. Just as you know any kind of business, you may be a business owner listening to me right now, or I am personally a business owner. Now as a business owner, if I make profit, then people who invest in my shares make profit. If I don't make a profit, then people who invest in my business don't make a profit, right? Which largely now leads to instability in the stock market, because a whole lot of things determine the move of activities or the move of profit or loss in the business. And at that point, you're hearing bearish or bullish, as the case may be. But then let's now come back to this conversation of how $6 trillion, not billion dollars, $1 trillion was wiped out in 2 days. This is serious. And then the question is, can it happen in real estate? Now, according to IND Money, in just 2 days, more than $6 trillion in market value vanished from the US stock market. Now, this is way more than Nigeria's annual GDP left or disappeared in 2 days. Now, the most important thing to look at here is what actually triggered this loss. And let's look at it, still according to IND Money. Now, the biggest catalyst behind this sudden meltdown is tariffs. US President Donald Trump announced a massive hike in tariffs last week, raising import taxes on key goods, especially from China, Vietnam, Canada, and several other countries or nations. Some duties jumped to as high as 58%, marking the highest tariffs level in over 100 years. And then they also went further to break it down. So in other words, this simply means that the reason for, or the major reason for this loss, is because the president of the US made a decision or declared a policy. Now let's look at this in comparison to real estate alongside other world or global events that have occurred in the past. First, before we even do that, this is the major reason why the stock market is very unstable and usually is associated with the word volatile, and real estate doesn't give you that. As a matter of fact, there's almost no declaration that can make real estate go down completely, because the indices that drive real estate and growth in real estate or profit in real estate, it is beyond one person. It is largely based on global demand, right? All of us need real estate. Donald Trump or the president of your country isn't going to say we should all leave our homes. At some point, we will all keep demanding real estate, demanding shelter, and of course, scarcity will remain. And in fact, if there are problems, the more there's going to be demand in real estate. I'm going to give you certain instances. So some of the core issues that have affected the global market and the world at large include 9/11, the 2008 global economic crash or issue, and then of course COVID-19 of 2020. Now all of these three incidents or global issues affected businesses globally. In fact, the stock market suffered heavily. There was a heavy hit on the stock market with all of these issues, just as it would be for any kind of business. So this is not about the stock market or anything currency. It's simply about the reality of business. It's when certain things happen, some persons shut down and you can't help it. But the reality is that when things shut down, for example, COVID-19, people still run back to real estate. In fact, during this crash, the 9/11 crash or the 2008 crash, a lot of persons had to fall back to real estate, and then that led to a boom in the real estate sector, especially because it will always be a subject matter of human demand, not whether you want it or you don't want it. And in summarizing this entire conversation, I am not saying that you shouldn't invest in the stock market or any other kind of investment. I'm simply saying that you should understand what applies and consider real estate in all you do, because those who invest heavily in the stock market are automatically, in fact, there's almost no billionaire, whether directly or indirectly, who is not invested in real estate. That is why there can always be a fallback to real estate. So while you are doing other forms of investment, consider real estate seriously, because at some point real estate will continually remain, even if ever that thing goes. And in summarizing the conversation again, real estate gives you stability, it drives appreciation, it literally helps you to build sustainable wealth. Of course, the stock market on the other side, when there is so much profit and dividend declared, of course you make a whole lot of money in dollars and naira, depending on where you're investing. And in my opinion, I would say consider diversifying into real estate. And then while you are into real estate as well, it's okay, after you of course look into your risk appetite, look at other forms of investment or vehicles that you can leverage on to also invest to continue to build wealth. The game of building wealth is about diversification, but I, as Raymond, I highly personally recommend real estate because of its stability. In fact, if you look at risk levels in terms of the global market, forex is almost at the very high, right? The stock market sort of follows at some point, and then if our real estate is below it, right? But then if you do real estate well, you can be able to maximize profit and make a whole lot of money, just like somebody who makes in the forex or the stock market over time. And on that note, I will highly encourage you to look out for my next video, where I'm going to be talking about how to maximize profit in real estate. If you're interested in that, subscribe and stay in touch with this great channel. My name is Raymond and I am the lawyer that loves real estate. So if you like the real estate entrepreneur, there's this law and real estate as a tool in building wealth for myself and my client. Do subscribe to this channel and share this particular video with a friend. And don't forget that we are a real estate company right here in Abuja. And if you're interested in owning the land or property, or you want to start building wealth, leveraging on real estate, we're happy to have that conversation with you. Do reach out to the number shown right on your screen, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye-bye.